There's some right now.
The 13th. What is that? There's something on there already. Ccsd. So that's in the morning.
I won't join into a fight. That's so long. Okay.
She said, I was like,
There's just a handful of companies that all accusing each other
Well, we left, there was still like two small companies on there. Okay. All right. I'll pull it up.
Good evening. We are going to go ahead and call the meeting to order at 6:05. Dr. Means, if you would help us with our roll call.
Dr. Mathis. Present. Dr. Knox. Here. Mr. Worthy. Here. Dr. Can.
Here.
Ms. Davis.
Here.
Dr. Titeman.
Here.
Dr. Perry.
I'm here.
Mr. Davis. Here.
Okay, thank you. We are at a place in our agenda where we can amend or adopt the agenda.
Madam President, just for the public and board's sake, I would recommend that the board consider suspending your rules and taking the opportunity to vote on 2 items on this agenda. The first would be under 9.3. That's the action to approve to apply for federal grant funding. Dr. Myers and her team are still in deliberations around submitting a federal grant that's due Monday, August 5th. Many of you have submitted grants in the past, and you know that submitting a federal grant is pretty intense and heavy lifting. And we start school on Monday. So Dr. Myers and her team are still trying to finish up things, but per policy, her team needs your approval to even pursue it. And so I think there will still be some deliberations and conversations, but the first step in even considering applying for it is getting your approval. So that's one area that we would ask you to consider suspending your rules and voting on. The other is under 11.1. The personnel recommendations are continuing to flow in. I will have an update in regards to how many vacancies we have and all the information that board members have asked at next week's meeting. But under this recommendation, we have the potential of hiring a principal for Chase Street Elementary School. That was the unanimous choice of that local school governance team, and this candidate also did amazingly well at the second level with our district team. And candidly, the candidate wants to start as soon as possible and even have a chance to meet students at the ice cream social tomorrow. But all of that is on hold until your vote. So those are the two items that we're asking you to vote, formally suspend your rules, and then you can take formal action. I did confer with legal counsel just briefly. I think this is more of a form and practice more than anything else. We have traditionally said that we're not going to take formal votes at a work session for transparency's sake. These are two items that we believe requires your immediate and urgent attention. That's why we're asking for a formal vote, so it's documented and it's recorded for prosperity.
Just a question for clarification, Mr. Pruitt. And so with the suspension of the rules, I'm assuming that would simply be an amendment to the agenda source?
Yeah, I was trying to get my head around that. Frankly, there's nothing in your policy or anywhere else that says you can't vote in a work session, but it's documented said it has to be discussed. So do you want to suspend or do the 2/3 vote to suspend the rules first and then take a vote, and then you can have a motion to add those items to the agenda?
Okay, can you say that again for me?
First, do a vote to suspend the rules for the purpose of adding these two items to the agenda to be voted on. That'll require a 2/3 vote to pass. Then somebody will move to adopt the agenda with these two items added.
Okay. So first, let's then see if there is a motion to suspend the rules. Okay, and is there a second? All right, is any discussion on these two items that we need to have? All right, all in favor of voting to suspend the rules for section 9.3 and 11.1, if you would raise your hand. All right, and then is there a motion to adopt the agenda as changed? Okay, is there a second? Dr. Beard, all right. Any questions or discussion? Okay, all in favor? Okay. So in section 3, we have some informational items, starting with the very first thing, which is our Head Start, Early Head Start Policy Council report.
It is very scripted, it's very well presented. I'm excited about
information, both real positive as far as I'm concerned, but I just wanted to find out a little bit more about the behind the scenes stuff. One is, it seemed like, which I think is a great idea, the CTAE and the Career Academy Governance Board the CTAE Advisory Board and the Career Academy Governance Board will combine. Am I understanding that correctly?
You said that the two will combine,
Right.
the Career Academy and
CTAE Advisory. I just want to confirm that and try to get a sense of who we did it before or what's been the purpose of second.
I think until I heard that they were the CTA board, I knew that they were legal advisories, but I did not know they considered themselves one of the board.
It's advisory council as well.
Okay, I know about that. So it is just the advisory council.
Yeah.
I think it's very easy.
Well, I just want to confirm if they are being blended together. Will it be one meeting or still two?
Is that something you want to talk about?
Okay, well.
I'm asking her.
So it's my understanding that some of the same people are on both boards. So I would just need to check to see if they're just trying to be more efficient. The same people that are on our CTAE board, which is our program director, Tomas Ramirez, to see if they are combining to be more efficient. So that's some information that we need to get back.
Okay.
They're out there having that big meeting, so there's nobody gets going. So I guess that's why it's falling on deaf ears.
Okay. The other question I've got is, there's a great increase, which is really positive in the student enrollment for the Career Academy. And I just wanted to get a sense, kind of like, it jumped up significantly and we still have more to add because there's still more testing to be done. So I want to give accolades to the program, but I also wanted to find out what we're doing differently to create such a high success.
So part of it is the alignment of our middle school programs to high school. The other part is that our high school counselors are doing a really good job of advising students about the opportunities that are here at the Career Academy.
So in terms of the middle school program, what is being offered freshman?
I can't remember offhand. Dr. Ramirez did a presentation for us a little while ago, so I need to refer back to that presentation. I can send that to you. But there is a 5-year plan to make sure that all of our middle school programs are offering the same thing that our high schools are providing, so students can start early in middle school and then be able to take that pathway completers course in high school. So it's just really better alignment that is happening in our middle schools and our high schools.
That's fantastic.
I want to take some credit for that, or pass some credit for that to Vision Athens, the Educate Athens group, because I think they have most of the entities to get those alignments going. And I was very pleased to see in my email, and I didn't get to go to it, but there is almost like there's another group that's forming to address that unmet need for people that are not in the traditional career paths and still in school together. So there's a whole other thing forming in the community that not educated your high school students or your advanced students. So there's another initiative that's kicking off. It's not meeting today, but that's not what we're talking about. So Educate Athens, I think, meets in the next 26 or so. So I would invite you to come to those meetings because then you can actually start looking at what the community, the council, the government, and the school system and those colleges are doing to try and address the unmet needs of education.
I went to the last division I called, but I went to a meeting of the division, but I don't know, it might have been not a meeting.
I think you'd be very pleased if you just connect with there are lots of committees out there, but the educate piece is really front and center in that. So I think that would be very good for you in terms of keeping everyone with what's going on in the community. Technical education, vocational education. Should be.
Or you can tell me. Okay.
Actually, what I do is I forward
Okay.
to go out stuff, so it's educate that.
Okay.
Any other comments? And I'm actually, Mr. Davis and Mr. Murphy forwarded just a response about the meeting that the Athens group had before, had requested, just to get us a little bit more confidence for it.
Yeah, I think that's a great one also. So, let's forward to that.
There will be food, but
Well, my question is that, because last time we did that, I think we kind of met around it. And so I enjoyed the food and I enjoyed the camaraderie, but I don't feel like I learned as much as I wanted to. So I was just suggesting a little bit more formalization of our gathering together, at least at some point.
And this is part of what I shared. It looks like the very first meeting is a bit informal around food. And just to get to know a little bit, I guess ask any questions that we may have about the program, about the individual board members, and then also having a brief overview of the upcoming recertification. So like what that looks like, and then the meeting after that would be, I guess, the results of that visit and certification, and addressing any follow-up questions or discussion points that we have. But certainly if there's something, once you read that email, if there's something specific that we want to ask them about, I'm happy to share that and ask them to have that meeting. And I didn't see a parent advisory board report.
Our last meeting was in May.
Okay, and so the next one will be, they don't meet in August.
We do,
They do, okay.
but the next set of minutes won't be available until.
Are those meetings, I was just checking, I only see the meetings dates for last school year, but the meeting dates, they've already been set.
We just confirmed this.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And we'll move on to the minutes of our previous meetings. There are, and so let's just start with, stop jumping around. The June, I think the first item is the June 6th meeting.
So Madam President, Madam Vice President, board members, we've listed all of these as draft. If board members have suggestions or changes that you would like to see made to them, Ms. Palmer and I would be very appreciative to receive those. Once you've reviewed and we're good, we'll take the moniker of draft off and make them formal so then you can ask on them at August 8th meeting. So if you can provide us feedback. If there's no feedback, then we will take the draft title off and they will be available for you to vote on August 8th.
Am I reading this correctly? So when I click on these I see them saying draft, but I'm not opening the
It should have a link to
There should be a link to.
It's okay, I don't use this very much, I use my computer.
Okay, so are there, it sounds like we can take this time right now to look through these minutes and see if there are any changes that need to be made, or this, the very first set is on June 6th.
change.
Number 5, policy that's posted for 4 weeks for public comment.
I'll speak to this.
Okay.
Yeah, as policy chair. This is policy GCI, and so this is coming up from policy committee. And to my recollection, the only changes were editorial correction of apostrophe, basically correction of the fiscal year.
It's just under review, basically.
So it's just under review. There's nothing substantive about that. So have at it.
Any thoughts or questions related to policy GCI?
I actually got to go to the meeting this time, so I don't have questions.
And so that will be out for us. We'll be waiting on the public to provide any type of feedback. Am I understanding that correctly?
If we vote to send it out, this is the sending out to the public phase. If we vote.
All right, so we'll move forward to number 6, which is policy to be adopted and or rescinded.
Right. So let me get my dates right. So this is policy 98.
Quite the contrary, we're increasing our dual enrollment, we're very pro dual enrollment. The technicalities that involve dual enrollment, so that, because it involves the university system, it's not just a school board decision, right? Dual enrollment is that you get credit through the university system. We want to default to the State Board of Education rule that provides all the complete guidance and not make it contingent on our policy process to remain aligned. So it may be more expedient to simply, given this guidance from GSBA, simply rescind the policy as soon as possible and avoid any further confusion. Right now, we have a policy that is not aligned with the the State Board of Education State Board rule. Is that? And thank you, Ms. Davis, who keenly spotted the GSBA policy alert in July as well.
So what we would have to do, not tonight, but at next week's meeting, is to suspend the rules to be able to approve that without doing the 30 days of public comment. So we would have to keep an eye on our agenda for next week. The only other thing I'll mention, you got public comment, and I just want to clarify on this. This is actually a policy that also was, that actually was approved to go out for public comment, but on July 18th, and so we haven't had the full 30 days yet. So we're not doing anything at the next meeting on IDBA.
Right. So that then would be our follow-up.
Yeah. So you've got that. That just means that a member of our public was on top of things, is giving us quick comment, but because of the timing of our meetings, we will be back.
Yeah, exactly right.
Thank you, Dr. Walsh.
Okay. Questions or thoughts about the current policy that will be possibly voting to rescind?
To suspend it, we're going to get it over with, and it's not on our agenda. No, all right. We've got momentum, folks, let's.
Let's take all of them. All right. Well, so we'll move on if there are not any additional questions or concerns. Under the board president report, I had a couple of things that I thought I would mention. And I think I've tried to at least share some updates with everyone. The first one being the retreat dates being scheduled for the 20th and the 21st. And so hopefully within the next, I don't know, couple of weeks, we can, that's September, yes, I'm sorry about that. So 9/20 and 9/21. It is, so it's 2 days. I think it'll follow the general format that we talked about, but it is important also that it's reflective of all of us and you know, the things that we want to cover. I do know that there are some things we probably want to be sure are there as it relates to like professional development and the number of hours we all, you know, need to be sure to get over a particular time period. But hopefully the retreat will include some meaningful work around different topics that we all think are important and necessary for us to continue progress with our board. But are there any questions or concerns about that information, that just what I've sent out so far with the dates? Okay. And I also, Mr. Pruitt, is it okay that I give an update regarding the date for the PSC? Okay. So as I shared with you all, that we do have our call with the PSC scheduled for the 12th of August. That is the Monday after next Monday at 11 a.m. And so I know a couple of people have already submitted some questions. So if you have any questions or think of any new questions, please feel free to share those with us. And I've started a document that has the context of the questions, so I can pretty much read the questions off as you've shared them. And hopefully between Ms. Davis and I will be able to type really quickly and also ask any follow-up questions that we see may be necessary. Any questions around that? I am sort of still thinking through and trying to look at our agenda. Of course, like a meeting like tonight, everything is it's like, wait, why do we have to streamline our agenda and spend less time? But I'm still sort of looking at that and just trying to see if there are any areas. I know, I think Dr. Means has suggested some things that were in that notebook that was shared with us as far as an outline. And then there have been a few others that have shared some information as far as, and thoughts around maybe how we can be sure that we're using our time as efficient as possible so that we can make progress, but also be sensitive to the fact that it is important for the public, you know, to be engaged in our, you know, our children and our families. And so trying to sort of strike that balance as well. And as well as the balance with, you know, sanity and productivity after 2 or 3 hours. So still, yes.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
No, I just wanted to see, is there gonna be a time to review the board governance notebook? Or is that something we can do in the retreat? Or, because we, you know, because staff put a lot of work into it. And we really haven't discussed it, and so I didn't know when would be the appropriate time.
What do you all
I say that we go for the retreat. To review it during the retreat.
I think that would be great. During the retreat. And then certainly, you know, Mr. Davis, if there are, you know, questions, I've looked through it, but then to be honest, I've forgotten what I saw, and like I have questions in certain places, and so like if there are some things that catch you as you're looking through it, it could also be useful to share those, because there may be questions that we all have as well.
Well, I started that today.
Okay, yeah. But, so it sounds like reviewing it during the retreat and discussing it more could be helpful.
And I just have one suggestion, like we do with some other things, maybe have a Google Doc where we can start listing those questions there. Because maybe in terms of streamlining, those answers can be found before we get to the retreat.
Okay. Does anyone want to do that, or is that my role? I'll do it though. Okay, thank you.
I don't mind. Go ahead, Karen.
The last one, so.
I'll just take Greg's questions and copy them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
That sounds like a plan.
And then we can just, we would just add.
Add to the
Okay.
reading.
Other thoughts or questions? Okay, and then the last area, I know, Dr. Dykeman, you asked about the vacancy. And so I figured we could just, you know, spend a couple of minutes talking about that and ironing out anything we need to iron out. Right now, our plans, as we discussed a few months ago, will be to select a person to fill Jared's position. And based on, I got that down there. I'm blanking on the specific policy. Is it AB? I think it has 4 or 5 letters. I jotted it down somewhere, but the policy that speaks to replacement of a board
ABCs.
member. I thought it had 4 or 5 letters, and I don't know where I put it at. But it basically does not specify if I'm.
A, B, C, D, A. Board
Okay.
member unexpired term fulfillment.
And if and just correct me if I'm wrong, you all's understanding of that, but it doesn't specify how. It does say that the board would be responsible for selecting a person, given that it falls outside of those time parameters, but it does not necessarily say how. We know that we have, we sort of made some selections a few different ways. And so I did want to open up that discussion, and also just give an update on, what we have so far. And I think you all have a copy of the one candidate that we have so far. So the floor is open.
One candidate. And the opportunity closed today.
You all recall what I reminded you all of?
No, please tell
So there's only gonna be one candidate?
For 4 years.
Remind me, what time did today, like, what, was it, did we specify?
You did not specify a time.
Okay.
So
I see.
it may not be that, so there might be another candidate. But if there's just one,
12 midnight. That's the end of the day. Anything after that,
this is
no
so
to
different
go.
than sitting in the Board of Elections office. This district has their person sitting there 5 minutes to 9. And they will not pay anybody else shows up.
I didn't think we had specified a time, but technically at this point, we do have the one person. I didn't see in the policy either from reading it that maybe maybe this is understood that the person has to get, like, I would assume that the person has to get, if it's one person, they have to get the majority.
Still gotta get a vote.
Okay, the majority.
I think we still have a vote, but I also would like
Sure.
to have the opportunity to ask this, to have this person present their rationale for coming on the board, just like everybody else. I don't need to talk to this person too.
That was listed in the requirements on the website.
That's right.
This person, we all agreed that the person would speak for 5 minutes rather than 30.
That's right. So nothing has changed about that.
I would think.
More so like any, it seems very simple that we'll take a vote next week on one person after they speak. But I did want to open up the floor because this is our meeting before that meeting, just to be sure we're all on the same page.
So pretty much after the person speaks, we have not in the past had interactive discussion with the candidates, so I would imagine we will not do that again here. And then, so after this person speaks, then are you going to then make the motion to send this person or whatever? And then you go from there?
That would seem to be the obvious thing, particularly since it's one candidate. If it were not one, then I would think that we would need to specify how we would go about, nominating the candidates. But I'm open to correction and feedback on that, according to our policy. I'm more so referencing the policy as it relates to replacing the individual.
It's very simple. You make a motion, you will raise the hand and vote. Or you get 5 votes, person in.
Because you bring your 5 votes, we gotta post it.
That's
It
right.
comes down.
That's right, because they still have to have a majority.
Still have that.
That's right. So, to be sure that we are all hearing the same things, what I hear is that we have one person right now, and we will take a vote by hand next week to select, nominate the person or not, basically to make our decision known. Okay?
So, just for clarification, in the package information we received, this person will be out of town and traveling back to Athens on the evening of the 8th. And so the person offered to provide a video recording or meet with you or the full board in person on that day. So is that a problem for anyone?
We don't need, so we take a vote next week, but the person may not be able to speak. We can't take the vote until after the person speaks. So you're saying a video presentation to the board?
Well, that's what the letter
It's
says.
really, I didn't read the letter, just saw.
Yeah, and out of fairness, it was
I don't have a problem with that. That's all there is anyway, is the person makes a presentation and don't ask any questions, so you wouldn't ask any questions with video.
There's no opportunity for public comment, public input.
Yeah.
In that manner. So that would be my objection. So we just delay this vote.
Public comment.
there's still an
There were people that
opportunity.
can't vote.
But I mean, they could still,
It's good to do it.
that's still, we can still do that. And we could even, I mean, if she were amenable to it, just show her video statement.
It's 2019, things are changing. I'm really trying to reflect.
Dawn.
So we're gonna have a video recording and we're gonna share it with the public, we're still gonna have public comment.
Because that piece hasn't changed, that comments piece hasn't changed. It would just require maybe some coordination, maybe with Ms. Palmer and Dr. Meade, as far as making sure that that video is prepared and ready to go.
Right, and with the
Well, the speakers that are gonna speak that night, they follow the same rule. They have to call and get on the speakers list before 4 o'clock next Thursday.
And they would have spoken for the first, she would have spoken.
That's right.
because they would be at the end of the week. But I wanted to just double check that it was 2 letters.
She says 2 letters. You should receive separately 2 letters.
Right. And I tried to go back and actually check my information, because what happened with one of them is that I don't know if it was sent to everyone or just me only, but that's this one that we see. So, yeah. I don't know what that would mean. Oh, okay. I don't know what that would mean, Miss Palmer.
No, there aren't 2 letters.
Is it that I overlooked?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you mean
Well-
there's a recommendation from other people?
Yes. No, there's,
There's only one.
That's her station.
oh, that's.
Right. She provided her own statement because as stated in the letter.
Right. And I think the requirement was 2, was it, am I?
I thought it was.
It wasn't a
It
requirement.
was 1, okay, all right.
Up to 2. It wasn't.
Yeah, what,
It
what is
wasn't,
required?
okay. All right, okay, well, we're ready to roll. So it sounds like next week, we'll take the vote. Everything else runs as normal. There'll be some coordination with Ms. Palmer and the district office and the candidate regarding the video presentation that can be shown at the appropriate time, and then voting will take place.
Will you contact her about the video? Just want to make sure somebody's going to.
Yeah, either me or Ms. Palmer, do you mind doing that?
No, I'm not, yeah.
Okay.
Do we want to do the public comment form on the website also?
I think so.
Yes, please. Actually, I assumed that the public comment form was already up there.
Not until you have candidates, so.
Gotcha. Yeah, and this has been sort of, okay. Yes, please, and that way we'll at least have it.
I'll take care of that tonight.
Okay. Anything else that you all can think of regarding the vacancy and? Okay. Make myself look good. So moving on here, we are ready for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Madam President. I would like to ask Dr. Stacy Pritchard to come to the podium. Pritchard will provide an overview of the success and accomplishments of the 2018-2019 Professional Development School District Partnership between the College of Education and the School of Social Work in the Clark County School District. Thank you, Stacy, for being here this evening.
So coming together is the beginning, staying together is progress, and working together is success. It's one of my favorite quotes from Henry Ford, which I really think exemplifies the mutually beneficial partnership that we have between the Clark County School District and the University of Georgia. So it's my honor to talk to you about that partnership tonight, give you a little history about where we've been and what we've done over the last year, and then talk to you a little bit about what's going to happen potentially next year. We have quite a shared history.
You can,
As you know, we have been together for decades. Our students, not only in the College of Education, but more recently in public health and the School of Social Work, have enjoyed opportunities to really engage in clinically rich practice in the preparation of their degree programs at the University of Georgia. And so that real-life laboratory time period to practice here in this amazing setting has been a really amazing opportunity over years and years and years. In addition to those field experiences, we've really spent quite a bit of time together on research and innovation projects. You've probably heard one of our professors in residence talk to you in a previous board meeting about the amazing research that he was doing to help inform policy and practice here in the school district. We've also engaged in a lot of joint professional learning. So we take the amazing contemporary knowledge that comes from University of Georgia faculty members, build that together with the professional leaders that you have in the school district here, and together I think we can continue to enhance our professional learning opportunities. We've also been called on from time to time to help the school district think through some things, participate in strategic planning, think about early learning experiences, think about induction models and how we retain teachers in the school district. And one of the most amazing things that have come out of our partnership is the Experience UGA program. So as you're aware, every year, every child in the Clark County School District gets to join us at the University of Georgia to see a little bit more about their community, to learn a little bit more about the career development opportunities that might be accessible to them, and to feel connected, that we have this symbiotic relationship. And then finally, over the last decade or so, we've had this professional school district partnership, and from that has emerged what we call professors in residence. So our faculty get to immerse themselves in the day-to-day operations of what's happening in schools. And again, we bring information to the schools. Those schools help us inform our practice and how we prepare the students that are with us at the university. Okay. So just a little bit of a timeline. As you're aware, this formal partnership, the Professional Development School District Partnership, launched in 2009 with J.J. Harris Elementary School. So Zernoto was the principal of that school at that time, and from that, this partnership has really kind of blossomed into its current iteration. And that happened in 2011. 2013 was when Experience UGA launched, and then in 2015, the school district and the university were recognized for that joint partnership by one of our national professional organizations. And then in 2018, we began to really kind of think about the professor in residence model, think a little bit more about how we're drawing in data to help better help inform our practice and to continue the relationships that we built. I want to show you a little bit by the numbers as well. So thinking about how we work beneficially together. So over the last 6 years, 183 bachelor's or master's students who have graduated from the University of Georgia have assumed first-year positions here in the Clark County School District.
What was that number?
183. I might be standing in your way.
Yeah,
Okay.
so 183
Right.
over the past.
So depending on the year of their enrollment as a teacher here in the school district, 70.48% of them have stayed for more than 1 year. So it's amazing.
What's the percentage?
retention rate. 70.48%.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay. And during that time, of the students who came in with just a bachelor's degree, about 24.22% have gone on to get a master's degree while they're employed here in the school district as well. So again, we're continuing to support one another in professional learning and enhance the experiences for P-12 children here in the school district. Okay. Yes, please.
So that number, what would be your goal for that number?
Oh goodness. I think if our professors are sitting back here, they would tell you that we would love to have many more of our students. And we're working really hard with Lynn's group to think about retention practices and recruitment practices to maybe speed up that process a little bit earlier, so capture those folks as student teachers or social workers or counselors that come into the school district a little bit sooner. It would be lovely if all of our students stayed here in the school district as well, and many of them make very deliberate choices to stay here, even if they're not from this area. Right? They might be from other areas around the state of Georgia, but make very informed decisions to stay in the school district. So I would say as many more as we could.
So related to that, 183, what percentage of that, or what percentage is that?
So over 6 years, we graduate between, this is across all of our teacher preparation programs, about 400 students per year.
Okay.
So that'd be about 2,400 students. Yes.
I ask this every time UGA talks.
Yes.
and that is, what about diversity of your students?
I think it's something that we're continuously trying to work on. Over the last 3 years or so, we have opened an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We have an associate dean that's charged with that work. I think that you'll find our graduate student population is much more diverse than our undergraduate population. But there's a lot of different ways to think about diversity. We have if you think about diversity in terms of first-generation students, diversity from across the state, I actually had an opportunity to see data from where our high school students come from when they come to the University of Georgia, and they really represent all areas of the state. We do have linguistic diversity. I think in terms of racial and ethnic diversity, we can do more work there. And it's something that's kind of continuously at our forefront, and it's one of our first goals in our strategic plan at the college.
Is that something that's available for the public to view in terms of the breakdown of your student population?
Yes. Yeah, in fact, we will be putting that information together for our Georgia PSC review that's coming up very soon, so I can make sure that I share that with Dr. Means to share that with you.
I would love that.
Okay, I'd be happy to do so.
So we have this great 70.48% retention rate, and I think that's probably admirable, but do you have the data behind that? What are the reasons that people leave? That's the curiosity.
Yeah, unfortunately, to say this, I don't have the data for why people make those kinds of choices.
Is that a question that you ask?
It's not, these are just data from our Office of Institutional Research and one of our databases with the Georgia PSC. So I believe that we are working more on the induction frame, and so one of our faculty members is working with Michael Harris, yes, I just lost his name, sorry, to really study that. And they've collected some data in a survey from teachers who are 1, 2, and 3 years, I believe, into the school district. And then they'll continue to refine and look at that information to look at reasons why that transition was smooth for folks and why that transition maybe was not as smooth for folks. Yeah. So I don't have it in this data set, unfortunately, but I think that data's coming.
I'm excited about it.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
There was one other question, but I lost it that quick, so it's okay. I'll ask it later.
We can come back. Okay. Another really amazing component of our partnership is the opportunity for our students, again, to engage in that clinically rich practice. So from summer 2016 to spring 2019, you can see that there were 2,779 of our students who had a placement here in the school district, right? So Lynn's looking at me like, yes, that definitely, that was, she made those placements for us. And then we also teach our classes on site. So our professors have the advantage of introducing some information to their students and having their students go down the hall, try out those things in small group opportunities, work individually with students. I'll talk to you in just a minute about some amazing work that was happening at the middle school, where there's a lot of that integration of our university students getting to work with the P-12 students in the district. I think the other amazing thing about that is you just think about the number of additional adults that are in the buildings, kind of shrinking that class size down, making a difference for students. So these are pretty astronomical numbers in terms of placement data. All right.
What was PDS on site?
Sure.
PDS.
Professional Development School District, and those are the courses where instead of offering the course at the university, we offer that course in one of the schools here in the district.
Ma'am.
Yes.
And you, I don't know, maybe you want to talk about this later, but I've asked this question before too, same as Greg. Not the same course as Greg, and some of the courses that you all are teaching on campus, I really like that approach. And because being a former educator, it was talked about for years that professors should come out of the ivory tower and do this. So you all did. Now, having said that, and I always ask this question here, do you all still teach the course materials and methods of teaching?
Yes, but I don't think we have a specific course that's saying that. In many cases, that information is embedded across a number of different courses in the curriculum. So Dr. Janice is here. She could maybe speak to that in social studies. What does that look like in social studies? Methods and materials of class.
Well, so in our program, so I'm in a secondary social studies program, so our students will become 6th through 12th grade social studies teachers, and they experience a 3-semester program, and in the second semester leading into their student teaching is when it's the most integrated in the schools. It's when they're out in This fall, they'll be in 5 of the secondary schools. We see it as 5 different courses, 1 the practicum, and then 1 on curriculum, 1 on methods, 1 on the notion of teaching and learning, and then the final one is a support to the practicum, so it's like responsive to the experiences that they're having out in the schools. And we have identified 3 focus areas that our candidates work on when they're in the schools, and they draw on some data or some studies that have been done actually in elementary math from Michigan State. Deborah Ball has done some decades of study on this, but we're trying to adapt it to secondary social studies, and our 3 focus areas that we work on with our teacher candidates are, and we think any social studies teacher, no matter who they are, think that these would be key practices that teachers should be able to do. The first one being questioning, listening, and responding, so we practice that over time in those courses. The second one being connecting the curriculum to the world, making sure that what is going on in the classroom is related to what's happening either in the students' lives or what's happening in the world around them, so it's not just detached, it's not just school for school, it's school for life. And then the third one being able to, this is a key one, teaching students to support their arguments with evidence. So those are the 3 practices that we work on in that set of 5 courses. So, and all of it's embedded in this notion of inquiry, an inquiry approach to social studies education. So it's kind of an integrated thing that we're able to watch what they're able to do in the classroom and then respond and give them feedback immediately so that we can shape their practice as it's building. So.
You covered that very well. I did my student teaching in 1970. And the things that you said in that particular class before I went out to do student teaching, that's what that professor taught. And many people don't realize this, but that is so important. And even including in how to do a bulletin board, connecting your teaching to the real world.
Right. Yes.
So sometimes students will challenge you on that. You covered that very well. Thank you.
You're welcome. Happy to. Thank you for the question. Mr. Davis.
Sometimes when you hear stuff that I've got to shoot down, you know, but in terms of our practicum internship experience, as a student in your program in the Clark County School District, I'm assuming that the internship is really where the rubber hits the road in terms of student teaching.
So if you ask each of our faculty, groups of faculty, they call it something slightly different in every single program. So the way that's operationalized by the state is something called preclinical experience and clinical experience. And so clinical experience is the student teaching experience. And I think that if you looked at any of our programs, you'll see that there are really rich opportunities for field experience, starting from entry into the program all the way up through conclusion in the student teaching. So you might hear it called student teaching. Some programs do call it internship. Others call it clinical practice. Sometimes those terms get used interchangeably, but the state operationalizes it as preclinical, anything before student teaching, and then student teaching as a clinical practice.
Okay. In terms of the clinical experience, let's just be generic. How long is a student teacher, is the class handed over to them to manage the curriculum, classroom management? What length of time do they have, like the whole works, without support of the supervising teacher, for instance?
Well, we like to think about it from a co-teaching perspective, and I think maybe if you are educators, you might have gone through a model where you were kind of in the classroom and then suddenly the teacher disappeared for a bit of time, maybe left for a few weeks, maybe a full semester in my case. What we really try to do now is keep both the student teacher and the mentor teacher together in the same space, and that they're kind of constantly clinically working together to think about what are the planning issues that have to be thought through, instructional assessment types of issues. Each program has something slightly different. So Sonia might talk to you about how much time that kind of solo period of teaching is, and maybe Morgan can talk to you a little bit in early childhood, what that looks like. So it differs from program to program. I think that our students are incredibly ambitious. I think they take a lot of initiative, and I think they really hunger for the opportunity to kind of be in front of the classroom and to have that kind of solo experience. but I think as a group of faculty, we've kind of tended to talk about this notion of co-teaching, and because that it offers the student teacher the opportunity to get instantaneous feedback from that more experienced mentor, to refine their practice, think about the next season's instruction. So Sonia and Morgan, do you want to say anything about student teaching or how long that might be a kind of solo experience for students?
Early childhood, it's about 4 weeks where they are responsible for all lesson planning, teaching all the subjects, everything. But of course, we encourage the mentor teachers not to disappear during those 4 weeks. So I think that's what Stacey is speaking to when she talks about the co-teaching aspect, but it's about 4 weeks. And so it's kind of scaffolded a bit into the semester. Most of our early childhood students, ideally, we want them to spend the entire year in the same classroom. So the first semester, they're doing their last bit of their internship experience, and then the second semester, they're doing their full-time clinical experience. So they spend a full year in the classroom with the same teacher. Ideally, that doesn't happen all the time. And then during that second semester is when they spend about 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, taking complete control over it. So that's how it works in early childhood. But again, it varies.
But I mean, but the model you're using is like a co-teaching model, right?
The whole year.
Yeah, the idea is that the mentor teacher never fully releases responsibility to the novice, and though they take a less significant role over time. In the cases where the student is making progress as they should. If they're not, then it's a different kind of situation where the mentor probably feels like they need to step in, but that's the rare occasion. In most cases, they do go through a gradual release and they become more of the leader in that co-teaching relationship as the weeks progress. But certainly and this draws on data from around the co-teaching model that it has a positive effect on student achievement if the co-teaching model is used with the mentor teacher and the teacher candidate. So there's gains both for the mentor teacher as well as the teacher candidate. And we see them as, because so much of what goes on in education is now collaborative, they also learn how to be a lead teacher and be able to work with colleagues in that role as well, where they're still engaged in a partnership. So when I go out to observe, it's never the case that I see that a mentor teacher isn't in the room at least going around and helping assist students while the teacher candidate leads.
So I've always had this question: can we measure that impact of this relationship happening in the classroom on a child's progress? So do we have that data yet? Because the predecessor. Yeah, we have the data that actually says that there's benefits. I'm happy that the students are getting, but our kids getting what they need. Are we able to do that? Right. Because we didn't quantify that. Can we yet quantify that there is an impact and it's a positive impact?
So can I ask you to hold that question for just a little bit, Ms. Davis, and then I will get to it in a couple slides. But yeah, I promise that we are going to address that in just a second. Great, thanks.
I could follow up, if I could, in terms of what you're all talking about. Do the students, I'm assuming you take surveys after someone leaves the program, graduates, get their degree, and say, I'm ready to go teach. And presumably you wouldn't be using this model if you had a bunch of negative feedback. I'm just looking at that the teacher retention rate is embarrassingly low for not just for UGA, but throughout the country, presumably. And so I'm just trying to figure out, with the model that we're using that is research-based and really works, and the students are so enthusiastic about it, and then come 3 years, half of them have left the classroom. So to me, there's a disconnect, but I'm beyond the point of doing any research on that. It's just concerning to me. But anyway, you've got more slides that are going to explain that.
No, sure. Well, there's that bit of data that I showed you about the number of teachers who stayed for more than 1 year in the district. And then every year, the Georgia Professional Standards Commission surveys teachers 1 year post-preparation program. And our data are pretty robust that teachers do really feel that they're prepared. And if you look at the class evaluation data that are the assessments that are conducted by the principals, our students are all kind of up in that high range of performance as well. It's something that I think that we want to continue because we don't want to spend a lot of time and energy preparing students if they're not going to want to stay in the field. So some of that starts teacher preparation program, getting people really excited about. I'm going to share with you some work that Morgan's done, how we're actually trying to move that pipeline down a little bit more. Really having an invigorating, amazing program that they feel connected to, wanting to make a difference in the world, and then thinking about ways to support them through induction, which the school district has really kind of taken a big bite out of this year. And so our Office of School Engagement Director and Michael Harris are going to be working a lot on trying to facilitate those induction experiences. So teachers continue to feel that support as they make the transition.
One last.
Sorry.
No, go ahead. No,
I was going to ask, I know you mentioned earlier, as far as diversity, there are a lot of different variables that go into diversity. And with the graduate school there, diversity maybe being a little bit more. With your undergraduate teachers or students that you're prepared to become teachers, to what degree is multiculturalism or cultural competency or identity or any of those, I could list a whole, slew of different things, but like to what degree are students exposed to, I guess, topics sort of that can be assumed to be outside of instruction but have an impact on instruction?
Absolutely. So we can have Michael and Jennifer talk to you a little bit about how they're working with social workers to better connect with staff in schools to think about trauma-informed care practices, working with students from very diverse economic backgrounds. I think within our programs we tend to have kind of a social justice orientation, thinking about ways that we can support all children, all learners, all communities in the work that we do. It probably does vary a little bit by program based on how long folks are within that program. Some of our programs are only 2 semesters in length, some have the opportunity to have 4 semesters. And so I think it's not just the classroom preparation, but it's really also how our faculty and the mentor teachers in the field help folks understand diversity and how to best facilitate connections with all students. So it's kind of a combination of both of those, the classroom-based instruction, but also the field-based instruction. So folks, do you want to say anything about your work on trauma-informed care practices that might help Dr. Deanna understand that a little more?
Yeah, and I was asking a bit more specifically, I'm pretty familiar with like the work in the support professionals area, so like with social workers and maybe counselors and ideally psychologists. And so my question is more related to those that have the most classroom time with the student. So the teachers, like to what degree are they having conversations about who they are culturally, racially, even, because even though diversity may be an area of growth for the undergraduate population, just sort of wondering, is there like a concerted effort by the program to like prioritize, to the degree possible at least, spaces to have those conversations?
Yeah, definitely Morgan and Sakina is here as well. And Sonia can also really speak to how they work that out in their particular classes. Can you give some examples?
That's the bulk of what I do in early childhood. So the first semester class that all of our undergraduates take as block 1 is what we call them, block 1 students, first semester students, is basically the class that you just described.
Okay.
And we're working really hard in early childhood to make sure that those themes are embedded across the coursework so that they're not just getting it kind of like a one-stop shop, especially since it's ongoing work. Especially considering the population of students that we are working with, they need time to really kind of parse those topics out. So we're working really hard to make sure that those themes are incorporated in block 2, when they're taking their methods and materials class, and block 3, where they're taking their curriculum class, and then again in student teaching. So that's something that's really on our radar, I would say. Thank you.
Before we leave that up, I'm going to hold it in place. You mentioned something about the Office of Diversity. Yes. So you have one now in the Education Department in addition to the one that's in Diversity?
Yes, yeah.
So is that something that's kind of permanent?
I think I would love to see more. No, it's a totally fair question. I would love to see more of that, but I think that our former dean instituted this associate dean's position to focus specifically on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and there's been a ton of work in our college, work for graduate students, undergraduates, bringing in amazing speakers to come and talk. And I think one really amazing thing that came out of late last year, Rich Milner was here on campus, and he came and worked with Morgan and her colleagues to lead a conversation about teacher identity development and how to think about how we can embed these topics more into our curriculum. So I think that we're probably on the forefront in our college. Within the university, I'm really kind of pushing the envelope about diversity, equity, and inclusion issues. We're making slow and steady progress, but I think it's because there's a concerted effort from our administration, our faculty are embracing this, and our students are really hungry to really understand who they are and how they fit in the world and how they help others fit in the world. You're welcome. That's encouraging. So let me turn and just talk a little bit about our professors in residence model. Talk a little bit about last year, and we brought you our report, so I won't summarize everything that's in that report. It's very streamlined, so you have a lot to read as board members, I think, so we wanted to make that convenient for you. But as you know, over the course of the professional development school district model, we've had a number of iterations of numbers of professors in residence. And so in 2018, we had 8 partnerships, and I actually haven't formally introduced the folks in the back of the room, but Michael Robinson is a professor in the School of Social Work. Jennifer is a professor in the School of Social Work as well. Sonia Janis is a professor in Social Studies Education. Morgan is a professor in Early Childhood Education. Sakina is in Literacy Education. And Richard in the back, you already know Richard very well, is in Educational Administration and Policy. So those folks all took the opportunity to engage and bring their research into the schools and have their schools inform their research. So we had 5 district-wide professors last year, 2 from the School of Education, 2 at the district level, 3 who were school-based, and then 2 district-wide professors from our School of Social Work as well. So really amazing partnership to bring more of our colleges, I think, into the fold, working with the school district. And I think we're excited to continue that opportunity. So in 2018, we switched our model just a little bit, and we asked for some evaluation data. So that's getting to your question, Ms. Davis, about what is the impact of our work in the school, and then how does that translate then to student achievement. So let me share with you some brief examples. I'm going to scan so everyone can see. So at Clark Middle School, the focus there was on culturally responsive teaching. And some of the outcomes there, the professor in residence, Amy Murphy, led a professional learning group, a book study group. And from that work, the teachers all reported that they felt better connected. And that was a school with a lot of new teachers in the previous year. And together with Amy, Sonia and Janice also have one of her social studies classes out there. And they continue to work together to build relationships with teachers and look at formative assessment practices and small group learning within that particular environment. At Fowler Drive Elementary School, Beth Tolley, who's also not here, really engaged our teachers in that co-teaching model. So not only was she supporting our mentor teachers, or our student teachers, but she was really focused in on helping our mentor teachers learn how to support another teacher within their classroom. And another artifact that came out of that model was something that was called Fowler University. And here, 4th and 5th grade students really talked to our undergraduate students about college and career readiness. And so I'll read just a couple quotes, because there were many, many quotes, but I pulled a few that I think you might appreciate. So one 4th or 5th grade student said, "I've learned that there are some careers that fit people more than others, and some careers have education." So remember, these are 4th graders, right? "School is for getting your education. Careers are about going to the place you want to go ever since you were little. College is a step for you to have a good job." And then finally, another student said, "What I've learned about those topics was always to know what you want for your future and to do something that you love." So a really interesting thing that came out of that partnership as well was that some of those 4th and 5th grade students got to travel with our faculty to a national conference and in front of hundreds of other teacher educators who were talking about professional development school districts, professional development schools, got to share their experiences in this 4th and 5th grade environment. It was an amazingly powerful example of how even young people have something really important to say about their education. Also in our district, I'm not going to talk a ton about this because Richard had a whole session with me, about his work, where he really has kind of honed in on discipline practices within the school district and giving some really wonderful policy and programmatic recommendations for future work in that particular area. One of our other professors in residence, Dr. Luza Casadant, is helping support a dual language immersion program at Oglethorpe Avenue Elementary School. And in this particular case, we do have some data where children in that particular dual language immersion setting had higher scores, right, in their literacy scores after the first semester of the program. So we're still working on getting the spring data, but it showed that there wasn't a big gap between English learners and Spanish learners, and because everybody was learning both English and Spanish, you can just imagine kind of the inclusivity that comes from that environment by being in a bilingual learning environment. It was also really highly received by parents. 99% said they would recommend that program to other parents in the district. And then 95% felt that their children would continue to communicate in both English and in Spanish. Okay. Our social studies program was led by Cynthia Janis, and she really had the amazing benefit of being asked by the Georgia Professional Standards Commission to serve on a task force to begin to reevaluate the social studies standards. So she had this real life contemporary knowledge that she brought to the school district and spent all last year really working hard, thinking about curriculum redesign with secondary, middle school, and high school social studies teachers. And through that, she also participated in coaching 8 social studies teachers who were first-year teachers in the school district, of which all 8 are now second-year teachers in the school district. Okay. Teachers also really overwhelmingly appreciated that design. It's amazing to be able to see the transformation in just a very brief period of time because we have Dr. Janis's expertise in that space. Another very amazing opportunity was Morgan Faison's work at the Athens Career Academy. And here she spent a lot of time working on career counseling advice, guidance advice for folks who are maybe interested in the teaching as a profession pathway. And so you heard you talk a little bit earlier about the CTAE programs, but over the course of the summer, 10 Clark County high school students participated in the summer learning program in the elementary school program. So we're trying to plant the seed early, right, for Clark County students to come to the university or a university of their choosing and come back to the district, right, to serve as teachers. I think one other really important part of her work was the transformation of the staff at the Athens Career Academy, thinking through kind of an equity-based perspective in their practice. So all of those amazing outcomes. And then finally, our School of Social Work folks spent a lot of time really working very closely with Dawn Myers and Crystal Gillis to really kind of help social workers reconceptualize what their roles are in school and how that work kind of fit with behavioral specialists and school counselors and other folks who are supporting social, emotional, and learning needs of children. So a lot of that was really kind of getting their mind around the problem over the last year, but that work really focused in. They gave a survey out to the social workers, right? And I pulled your cultural data here. Out of a score of 6, you can see that folks' empathetic feelings were a score of 5.4, acceptance of cultural differences 5.78 out of 6, right? So making that kind of on-the-ground transformational experience. So I've heard some really exciting things that are going to happen next year in social work, and I can't wait to see what the outcomes of that are. So next year, we have a more limited number of professors in residence. A couple of our professors are either transitioning out of the program because they're working on other things at the university, or one of them is leaving our state, unfortunately. Sorry, I'll get my quote at the end. But we'll have the dual language immersion program, the social studies integration program still, all the work that's happening at the Career Academy, and then the focus in on social work as well. So I want to leave you with this particular quote. The ability to work together toward a common vision. It's the fuel that allows common people to attain uncommon results. So I hope that kind of exemplifies our partnership, and we can't thank you enough for your graciousness in hosting our students, facilitating the work of our faculty, allowing us to be amazing contributors to this community and the growth of this community through our continued partnership. So thank you for your attention. I'm happy to answer some other questions or have our professors and residents answer them. Okay.
Yeah, just kind of nail you down here. You know, you talked about giving Dr. Means kind of a breakdown of your various levels of ethnic diversity and and other types of diversity. When we all have that
I'll
done?
get it to you by next week, so I
Okay.
just have to ask the right
Great.
person to download all the data. So we
Thank
can do
you.
that for you. Absolutely. Yes, Mr. Ridley?
Yes, once your student teachers finish doing the teaching, do you all have any type of exit requirements that you require them to do?
Well, we have some embedded in our programs, and then the state has quite a number, right? So we have an assessment called NTPA. They have to taste a content exit exam. They also have to fill out some exit surveys for us as well. Is that the type of information that you're asking about?
I think you're right on it.
Okay,
I
yes.
love that.
It costs a lot, guys. It costs about $1,000 to $1,100 to take all the assessments that are part of teaching. So when we think about barriers to teaching, that's a big one of them. Thinking about how much it takes to move through all those hoops, right, to reach levels of certification.
The reason I asked that question, I'm sitting here thinking because we had to pass a written exam, give you a little booklet,
Yes.
give you a topic,
Yes.
and should have been a red box in there, so I'm dead. Also, I was required to do a professional law. Are you familiar with that?
Yes.
Had to required to defend it. But I was glad that I was required to do all of that. It made me a better teacher.
Absolutely. So in addition to some of those state mandated assessments, some of our programs have implemented things like inquiry projects or other types of kind of capstone related things for folks to kind of demonstrate their progress all the way through the program. So yeah, sometimes they get that opportunity from both the program and the state.
I think the capstone is sort of related to what was the acronym TPAI. You familiar with that? And I can't recall what that acronym stands for now, but it was pretty intense.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Yeah, so I think our students, I will tell you that in 2008, our programs were all rated as exemplary by a new metric that's called the PPEM, which is from the Georgia Professional Standards Commission. And the data are out from 19, but I can't tell you what they are yet. But we're nicely in the same range. Makes sense, yeah. So we're the only research extensive institution in the state that received that rating. Mr. Davis?
This should be my last one. What about tracking your graduates 5 years out? Are y'all doing that as well? In terms of if they're in the profession, if they are, what better preparation would they suggest? Or if they're not, why not?
So the state does collect that data 1 year out. We have local data from here where we know where our teachers have gone, employed by the school district, because they're all registered in a system with the Georgia Department of Ed that cross-talks with the Professional Standards Commission. We haven't made a very concerted effort to do that 5 years later. Kind of look at something I think that would be important to investigate. The Southeastern region, the research really kind of suggests that 5 years is kind of the maximum in some cases, that teachers tend to leave the profession within those years. So that's why those induction efforts I think are really very important to help facilitate those smooth and keep those transitions positive as folks move from year 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, so we can retain this amazing workforce that we've prepared. So it's something I'll take back to our faculty to continue to investigate.
Because the alumni associations from every university I went to managed to keep up with you, and so I would think that our academic programs would be able to do that as well.
Exactly. Yes. I think we do have some systems. It's just a matter of two state agencies talking better with one another. Well, thank you so much again. I appreciate the opportunity. We're very honored to work with you, and thank you for all you're doing to support the school district as well.
I'm so happy that you guys are here, and I've got some of you guys in action over at Clark Middle. That's my favorite thing now. So if you're there, I'll see you there.
Madam President, I think Stacy was very humble. We've made significant changes to the professional development school district model that may not be something that you can observe right away, but the metrics that we have put in place, the impact that we're able to measure, and we've responded to the board and community's desire of creating our own pipeline for teachers. I think what Dr. Faison is doing. We're doing the work, and I just want to extend a thank you again to our colleagues at UGA. I think Dr. Myers has taken on the challenge that I've asked our team to embrace, which is to be innovative. The fact that we've worked with Richard and our School of Social Work so uniquely, I think stretching ourselves and not having professors and residents in the College of Education was very new for us, but it has helped us. And as we talk about the social emotional needs of kids, to have that type of partnership, we're very proud of. So I know Stacy did a lot. She covered a lot. She actually covered more than, and you asked a lot of questions, mainly outside of the PDSD space. But we're very proud of the work we're doing within the Professional Development School District space. I'll just give one anecdotal story. Dr. Thomas had a chance to see some of Dr. Faison's students working with our kids in summer school. So Dr. Faison's students who are Athens own, who are saying we want to be teachers, worked with young people in summer school, and they put on a puppet show and they kind of changed some lyrics to songs and
2 places, I think.
and it was the talk of our school district for weeks because these were young people who are aspiring to. Dr. Faison has motivated them, and they are showing great promise already around becoming instructors. So I know there are a lot of questions about teacher retention and how long people stay in the profession, and I think that's all worthy conversations. I want to make sure that our friends and partners in the PDSD know that we appreciate how we've made a pivot based on the board's request for data and impact and demonstration of impact, and that's actually in place with our relationship.
That's great. Can I ask a question? The professor in residence, is that something that we as a school district say we have a particular need that we're looking for somebody in this area, or is it you guys have somebody that is interested, or is it either one? I think it's
It's a partnership.
Yep.
Well, thank you. I am very encouraged. I think most of us are, but very encouraged to hear that necessary conversations are happening, and also that there's the added layer of social, emotional, that aspect, the health and the trauma-informed work that Jennifer is doing. I don't know that that's been there before. I was trying to go back a few years before, and just to hear a lot of what's going on now, and the shifts and changes, and sort of the focus on impact, because I do think that that's critical to be sure that it is a partnership, and that both partners or all partners are benefiting. So,
Madam President, board members, next week during my superintendent's report, I'll talk about 2 items. One is a facilities update, just to give the board and the community an update on facilities. The other is our milestone data has now, the embargo has been lifted, and so we're really excited to unpack our data. I've shared this week that we've seen a 4% increase in our ELA scores across the district in grades 3 through 8 in terms of the tested areas. We were flat in math, but we'll unpack the data a little bit more next week and talk about where we've had some successes, but also where we need to continue to work. That'll be next week.
Dr. Means, is the after-school programming, is that going to be pushed to another?
No, it's on the agenda for next week.
Okay, that's why I'm saying, it was in your report, I thought, but yeah, okay.
so that would be a part of the report as well.
It's an item on the agenda for next week. I think I've communicated to the board that we felt that just giving the board and the community a glimpse of where we believe after-school programming should go is really important. I think and and I don't want to steal Mr. Gaskin's thunder and the team that he's working with to give that overview, but I'll give a preview. And the preview is that in this school district, after-school programming has been financially driven. So if you have the money to pay for after-school programming, you can have after-school programming. And depending on how much money you have, that told the families what type of programming you would have. If you paid the minimum, that's what you received, the minimum. You had someone who would watch you play on the playground that you already played on during the school day. If you have the financial capacity within your family to pay for more, you can take classes like karate and rock climbing, and you name the experience, and it was provided. And the inequity that has been created in our community is through after-school programming, because certain vendors will say, I'll go to the schools that I know have a base of stakeholders who can pay for those experiences. And so then you would have the opposite end of it, where you have schools where the families can't pay for it. Those vendors didn't come to them. And then it would come to a point of, as a district, we said it's financially driven and you have to pay for it. And that's where a few years ago when I arrived, we found that there were certain schools that were our most economically distressed. They didn't have programming for kids at all. Hope McGuire, our new federal programs director, Dr. Scott, who, by the way, I can't wait to unveil the data. Her school saw an 11-point increase in ELA last year. That's why we had to still her and get her to the district office. And Mr. Gaskins will talk about what we think we have to do in the next few months to program appropriately. We also want to talk about some of the really impressive work that Claire Suggs has been doing with one of our schools to try to bridge the gap of inequity around after-school programming. So that's all next week.
Thank you. We're gonna all try this.
That's under 8.1.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
All right, Dr. Means, is that all?
That's it.
Okay. All right. Moving on to our consent agenda items.
Madam President, I'll go through these so then you can address them
Okay.
as a consent, and so you don't have to go through each one.
Okay.
9.1 is we will be seeking approval, and if you could put it on consent, that would be great. We have 2 field trips we're requesting. One is for Cedar Shoals and Hillsman students to attend the National FF Future Farmers of America Convention in Indianapolis, Indiana. The second is for our Cedar Shoals band to participate in the Nashville Christmas Parade. That's a nationally televised parade, and so we're really excited about these opportunities for our students. The second item, we've talked about this before, but again, through the lens of equity, that even translates into our facilities work. We would like to have a modular classroom. It's a 6-classroom modular unit that would be placed at Gaines Elementary School instead of what we consider to be the less appealing and academically enriching environment that is currently in place for that school. We've mentioned earlier in your adoption of the agenda, but Dr. Myers and her team are pursuing a national grant. I guess the only other thing I will provide here is that it looks like the Department of Education is trying to unload, it's the best word I can come up with, unload some funds that they haven't used, and they are making it available through a federal grant process, which is a good thing. And that's why we want to at least be in the loop and be in line for a potential application for this grant. Under 9.4, we're seeking approval from the board to terminate the contract that we had to purchase the property on 1001 Prince Avenue. We've done our due diligence of that property, and due to some negotiation issues with parking spaces and in other examination of the building, we just don't know if it would, we don't believe it's going to fit our needs at this time. 9.5 is we're asking for approval of $350,000 worth of renovation work at Cedar Shoals with their old gym and locker room renovation. This is part of my facilities report that I'll give next week, but I've shared with the board in the past that we have an extensive of a $4 million project that we're going to invest around athletic facilities at the two high schools, $2 million for each high school. And this $350,000 project is part of the $2 million portion that Cedar Shoals has chosen. Each high school worked with their high school principal and their athletic director and obviously other stakeholders to identify the projects that were important to them in their school communities. This was a project that Mr. Maxwell and Mr. Derricott felt was really important for Cedar. And then Dr. Pritchard did an amazing job in highlighting the work that we're proud of around the PDSD, or the Professional Development School District contract. We would like to continue that contract moving into the 2019-2020 school year. Those are the consent agenda items.
Just a real quick question. On the modular classroom, so we're going from individual trailers to a collection. Is that what we mean?
Mr. Claiborne?
That's what I understood.
Yes, that's what we're doing. We're going from, with individual trailers or classrooms, we cannot have a homeroom, and they need space for the homeroom, so this will allow them to have one homeroom for all the kids in one space.
Okay.
Any other thoughts around these consent items?
I say all for consent.
All right, all for consent, with the exception of rule 9.3. So is everybody okay and approval of all those being on the consent agenda? With the exception of 9.3? All right, and so I think at this point we would look at 9.3 and
Dr. Myers, is there anything else you want to add that
No, sir.
I've missed?
It's just, per our policy to give us permission to apply.
right? Motion?
Yes, I move that we accept 9.3 as explained by the superintendent for this grant.
Okay. Second, all right. Any further questions or concerns about 9.3?
Am I clear? We're voting to do this now as opposed to?
Yeah.
Okay, just want to be clear. I won't see this next weekend, right?
Oh, that's right.
Okay. I'm good. I missed it.
Monday, correct. Thank you.
I blinked.
Correct.
Okay, we're good.
So we have a motion, a second, no further questions? Okay, all in favor?
Oh, that's right. We talked about that earlier.
Okay, wonderful. Personnel recommendations, I think it was 11.1 also, that there was some action to be taken based on the changes we made to the agenda.
There's just two highlights I will provide from an administrative standpoint.
Okay.
Let me start with some good news for the individual. We are sad to see this person go, but Dr. Carletta Nolan has had a chance to have a promotion. She has been selected and hired to become the regional superintendent in Milwaukee Public Schools. That's in Wisconsin, Milwaukee. And so it's a promotion for her. We're really happy for her. She's been able to move up, and so she is looking in the north. The Yankees have school a little later, so She won't start school until after Labor Day, and so she's seeking to make her transition the next week or so. And so that's it's hard news for us. We don't want to lose her, but you can't stand in the way of someone pursuing a promotion, and it's home for her. The other opportunity that we're really excited about is that the local school governance team for Chase Street Elementary School selected one candidate to forward for the district office level interview. We had a chance to interview that candidate last week, I believe it was. The days are blending now. But we interviewed that individual last week and was thoroughly impressed. I think it was last week, Friday, that we interviewed the person. I had a chance to interview and do the reference checks, and her prior superintendents and supervisors spoke extremely highly of Nikki Hiddle. Ms. Hiddle is extremely excited about her name being brought to the board this evening. We are recommending that you suspend the rules again under 11.1 to allow Ms. Hiddle to take her rightful seat if you choose to appoint her as principal. She can start as, again, she wants to attend the ice cream social at Chase Street School tomorrow to meet students and families. We thought it would be a little premature until you officially approve it.
I'm sorry, is there more discussion?
That's all I have.
I move that we approve the hiring of
Seconded.
This is for the whole personnel. We'd be approving all of them.
Yes.
Oh, it's all personnel, not just.
Yeah.
I
Change that.
changed my motion. I move that we approve the personnel recommendations as presented by the superintendent.
I still second that.
All right, any questions? All right, all in favor?
I'm not saying you said that.
We're still in the process, if I were a board member, I would ask this question. We're still in the process of interviewing for the Alps Road principal vacancy. We do have a finalist that the local school governance team at Alps forwarded 4 candidates. We've narrowed it down to one of the 4, and I'm in the midst of conducting reference checks now for that search. And we've reposted for the Fowler Drive vacancy right now. In the interim, Dr. Angela Hardiman, former principal in the district for many years, candidly has been a mentor to our principals in the district. She served in that role of interim principal when Dr. Johnson left for her promotion in Henry County. Dr. Hardiman likes Fowler. She likes the work we are trying to advance in the district, but more importantly, she's made connections at Fowler, and so she can only work 49% per the state of Georgia, and so we're going to try to find a way to make sure that there's support in that school for the 51% of the time that she's not there. But I think her presence and her leadership has stabilized a situation that could be pretty poor, knowing that you have to post a job for 4 times. So we're continuing that process, and we'll continue to look for someone. But that's an update with the last 2 vacancies.
And I'm assuming, if I heard you right, Dr. Means, next week we'll have some type of information about where we're at in terms of the hiring for this.
We are hopeful that we'll have a name to forward to you next week for Alps Road.
Okay. But in terms of where we're at with teachers and certified.
I'll continue to work with Ms. Duke, and our goal is to have that information. Let me just be clear, because I know that's been a request of yours, Mr. Davis. We can't make any determination of what that data means until the report that we've stated in the governance book will be provided in September is provided. And so, yeah, we'll be able to give you raw numbers, but there's more to.
Oh, I know
There's
that.
more
I
to
know
the
that.
numbers.
I know that.
But I'll work with Ms. Duke to provide those raw numbers. But I would just ask the board's patience for our presentation in September around where we are with our efforts overall. Right. As it pertains to HR.
Well, and as it relates to, I think, retention, like I'm also thinking, do we have an idea as far as like the number of vacancies? Like I know
That's what I'm asking.
a few months ago, I think you gave us like an update and said we have, right now we got, this amount of positions, that we still need to fill. Do we have a good sense, like generally?
Maybe I'm too close to this because as a former HR director, I've been in Ms. Duke's seat. For every number that I can give you right now, Ms. Duke is going to go home tonight and it's going to change.
That's right.
And then she's going to come into the office tomorrow and it's going to change again on August 2nd. And so it doesn't really stabilize. That's why we put the report out there for September. But we want to be responsive. We'll get you the numbers as of August 7th, August 8th, so then you have the numbers and the public has the numbers. But we would just ask, we have more data and analysis we can provide you. I think Dr. Pritchard even gave you some analysis of, so why are people leaving? And I think Ms. Duke is digging into our exit survey data right now. We'll have all of that information that we can unpack for the board in September.
Let me make a comment on that. Do understand, folks, it is a tremendous teacher shortage across this country and hitting the Southeast tremendously hard. There are school districts, well, started today, some starting tomorrow, and they have substitute teachers in those classrooms because they can't find people. I'm from the state of Alabama. Now, let me tell you something. In the state of Alabama, they have passed special legislation that if a person has a degree and they want to teach, you come and teach for us, and over a period of 4 years, if you have earned your certification, you can remain with us. That's how critical it is. It's a critical situation. I was listening, I can't recall her name now, but the teacher ed program is not what it used to be years ago, because there are so many other areas that youngsters graduated from high school can go in. And even when they are decided to teach, when they look at other areas that are inviting to them, and especially in the area of technology, that's where they're going.
Well, just to kind of tee it up, so we'll have the data. We'll definitely have that data, but I also want to, from an instructional standpoint, to provide Ms. Duke and I a platform for an informed conversation. In September, we have some reading assignments that we'll pass out at the board meeting. And assignments around the difficulty that researchers are finding, that districts, Title I districts in particular, are having in retaining teachers. When you look at our demographics and our composition of a district, and then you look at it nationally, and then as Mr. Worthy said, when you layer it on the teacher shortage, again, candidly, the numbers that we are seeing are actually the average for the nation. And so we're really looking forward to the conversation in September. I think is it October, did we say? Yeah. In the fall. Madam President, board members, I don't know if you voted on 11.1 or not.
Yes,
We did.
You voted, okay. Then under 11.2, 11.3, and 11.4, those are traditional, and those will be forwarded to your meeting next week as well for your approval. I just want to point out, and I appreciate, because I want to make sure that Dr. Myers isn't overloaded as well. We're not asking, I think, since I've been here, there's been a question annually, are we asking Dr. Myers to be the hearing officer? We are not. Can't add more to her plate. There has been a hearing officer hired, and she will not serve in that space. Also, annually, we have to have you appoint and then notify the community around who is our ADA 504 coordinator and our equal opportunity coordinator. And you'll vote on those next week.
Okay. Any thoughts or questions related to any of these conversations?
Sam Preston was hired as the hearing officer.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Dr. Means, make sure you bring Dr. Nolan back next year for the kickoff, to be the MC and also the cheerleader. She energized.
I saw some people rehearsing over there, ready for next year.
She did it.
That was great.
She was good. Yeah.
I want to end on a positive note too, but let me, now, are we ready?
Yeah, sure. I think Dr. Nines had a question or a segment, and you
I've
had
got something.
Okay, let's just start here.
So I'm gonna follow my sword and say, when I looked at the A, and when I called you for the A, I really, in my little mind, thought that it was gonna be after the board meeting, but this is a lunchtime meeting. Is that still gonna work for your calendars? Because if it doesn't, we don't have an issue.
That was the doodle poll.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
We all answered a very specific
I'm only talking to
time.
Karen.
Yeah,
Okay,
it was
sorry.
us.
Two people who didn't.
I don't know.
So you'll come back to me. So let me just
Yes.
tell you that one email that I sent saying it's all done, may not be done, that's all.
That's your positive note?
Well, I just, yeah,
All
it may
right.
not be done, so I'm like, it's not a positive note. I want us to end on a positive note. I want
Oh, so
somebody
you
else to
wanted
say
to do
something
everything
after
now.
me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you give me the time again?
11:30 to 2:30.
All right.
May I get that to you
Oh,
if you
your
need me
calendar,
there?
You're good.
Yeah, maybe not. So that's the first week of school, and if we need to, I'll touch base with Ms. Palmer as well.
That's why I thought it was that night. So, okay.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
It's just hard to be out that long during the first week of school.
Okay. Mr. Davis and then Dr. Nolan.
Yeah, my thing is that I was talking to one of the folks who's working on or preparing the groundwork for the census in Athens, Clark County. And I'm hoping, and I'm not sure if, if the district has begun to think about our participation. I know we did a lot in 2010, but there was also grant money out there, and I'm just want to make sure that everyone's counted in Athens, Clark County. So at some point, if somebody can send out an email or just saying what we're doing on that score.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We look forward to seeing everyone on Monday at their school. Thank you all for
You haven't given,
volunteering.
have you confirmed my assignment?
You already
Not
have
yet.
an email. I got you.
Okay.
Check email. So the emails have gone out. Everyone knows where they're supposed to be, and they have their notes from their principals of what, instructions they need to follow when they get to the schools. So we're very excited, and we're looking forward to another successful year. And I want to thank Dr. Claire Suggs for working with me again this year, James Ford, and Barbara Sims.
Thank you, Dr. Maddox, for helping us coordinate that. It's amazing.
Dr. Nolan? No? All right. It looks like according to my agenda, that is it. We have one more item, and that's the adjournment of our work session.
I'm there.
Okay.
You're motion that we adjourn.
All right. Second, Dr. Madison, second. Okay, all in favor? All right. Adjourned at 7:58.
So which, I'll respond.